So I'm really excited about the guest that I have coming up for you. This is probably, of all the guests that I've had on this show, this is probably the one that I'm most excited about. And that's not a knock at the other guests, but this person has a really fascinating story to tell. And I'm just really lucky that she's chosen my show, my channel, to tell this story, because this is really important. It's really relevant to the Marilyn Manson controversy. A number of you know that I've been covering this controversy since the beginning. It's been over a year now. And we have been talking recently, not only about Marilyn Manson's defamation lawsuit, but also about the documentary Phoenix Rising, in which Evan Rachel Wood and others accuse him of abuse. And one of the main, as a number of you know, if you've seen that documentary, one of the main topics in that documentary, one of the main points that Evan Rachel Wood makes, is that she claims that she was essentially raped on the set of Heart-Shaped Glasses, this music video that she did with Marilyn Manson when they dated, and that it was a real sex, and it was rape, it was non-consensual, and that she was intoxicated, and Marilyn Manson had been feeding her drugs and alcohol and so forth. So my guest that I'm going to talk to, she is not, in a moment, she's not here to directly address Evan Rachel Wood, but she is here because she actually was on the set of Heart-Shaped Glasses. She was actually in the room. She was one of the few people who was actually there when that controversial sex scene was filmed. And so she's going to tell us about that. And also, my guest was a very good friend of Marilyn Manson's for a while, and hung out with Evan Rachel Wood as well. And so it's a really interesting story, and it has a kind of a crazy twist that I don't want to get into right now, because I want you to understand. I want us to go through this, and then you'll understand at the end the significance of it. But it has a really crazy, kind of jaw-dropping twist at the end. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But thank you so much, Vanessa, for being here. This is Vanessa.
Hi.
And I know that was quite a lead up there, but I just wanted people to understand, like, sort of what's going on. But go ahead and tell us, how you know Marilyn Manson. We'll get to the music video in a moment.
Okay.
But you were a former friend, good friends with Marilyn Manson. Can you tell us, how you met him, for example?
Right. Well, I saw him when I was 13 in 1997 for the Antichrist Superstar tour. But, time passed. I didn't see him again until 2004 when he was touring for the Lest We Forget, Greatest Hits album and all of that. I went to a show he had here in Albuquerque. And a friend of mine who is an adult entertainer, she got some backstage passes, and she's like, "Hey, you're coming with me." And I was just like, "Oh, Jesus, I'm going to meet Marilyn Manson. This is so weird." So we got back there. There was quite a lot of girls back there. And
I bet.
yeah, there was girl. So we get back there, and it's like, as soon as he enters the room, it's just craziness. Like, all these girls are trying to sit on his lap, and they're like crawling all over him and trying to get all up in his face and everything. I was stone cold sober. I had only had water that night because I had to drive back home, which is about a 45 to an hour minute drive. So I was just kind of, he was sitting on a couch here. I was here. Girls everywhere there was, typical rock and roll debauchery and all that stuff happening. I don't remember why everybody went to the next room. I believe somebody said there was weed, or there was some kind of, something. So the majority of the girls left. I was just sitting there sipping water, because I was not about to drive under the influence of anything. So he very quietly stands up, and he comes and sits next to me, and he says, "Please help me." So, so I ended up being his bodyguard that night, and these girls were relentless. They were like, I remember one point he went into a bathroom stall because, he had to pee, and a girl tried to follow him in there, and I grabbed her by her arm, and I was like, "Leave him the fuck alone." So I took on that role that night, and it's not my personality to be like that, but I mean, if somebody needs my help, of course I'm going to, take that upon myself. So, that was just like the beginning of our friendship right there. And we ended up hanging out on the bus afterwards. And I think everybody thought we were doing something salacious because we were in his room, but we were just eating orange popsicles and talking to his cats. Like, there was never anything like that between us. Like, that night when we connected just one-on-one, it was like, you're my little sister and you're my big brother. And that's how we were for the next 5 years.
So you just knew, like right off the bat, that I mean, pretty much that you didn't have that kind of chemistry, but it was
Yeah, I mean,
it was a good friendship.
yeah, there was obviously, mutual attraction on both ends that first night that we met, or else I don't think he would have approached me, which is I thought was super sweet. But yeah, just nothing sexual, nothing romantic, anything like that. It was very much a surrogate sibling relationship, and he always called me his little sister, and he was I always called him my big brother, and it was never anything more than that.
Well, it's what's interesting too about what you just said, just that anecdote about meeting him and the conditions for that. It's interesting, the way you describe the other women as really, it almost kind of, it reminds me of like I just saw the movie Piranha again for some reason. I watched it the other day, but it's just like, like these swarms, and I don't say that like, I know some people will say, oh, she's being misogynist or whatever. No, I'm just saying that like, we all should understand that these rock stars, and this is not, a number of people of Manson's accusers have depicted him as being this predatory person, and who was like, really, who was too aggressive in the way that he approached women and female fans and stuff. And it's interesting just to me that what you describe, and I know you can only speak to your own experience, but what you describe seems different than that. Like he was almost trying to get away from these women.
Yeah, it was very much like that. And it was very much like that for our relationship, the whole entirety of it as well. He was very, very protective of me, very always making sure if I was okay. And this is not to say that he was ignoring anybody else, because he's not like that. But, when you're his friend or he cares about you, he very much makes sure that you're okay and that you're taken care of and everything's fine. And I never, ever was aggressive towards me whatsoever at all. Like I'm very uncomfortable around men. I always have been. But just he exudes this very kind of quiet, what's the word? Very just protective. I can't think of any synonyms of that right now. But just a very calming, sweet, funny, kind person to be around.
And so you said that you were friends with him, was it for 5 years? Is that what you said?
Yeah, from 2004 to 2009.
So you were friends with him for 5 years, and I would imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would imagine in a lot of circumstances that we would consider to be intimate. I don't mean sexually, but I mean like you're around him, like were you around him late at night or intoxicated or in these kinds of. And you didn't, but you did not experience any, and you said you did not experience any abuse?
Not at all. Not at all. He was just a very, very fun person to talk to. He would call me in the middle of the night quite a bit. Like I would just always leave the sound on my phone up because he'd call me at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And we would just talk for hours and laugh about the most stupid things. We were literally like 2 overgrown little kids. We would just laugh about everything and make stupid jokes. And when we were together, it was like that as well. Like, I went to his house in 2005, and there's a photograph of me that we took that night that was on one of those old-fashioned like accordion Polaroid cameras. I don't remember if he said it was from the 20s or 30s, but we shot a picture down in the basement of his house. And yeah, it's just, I feel like I got to see parts of him that a lot of people didn't get to, and that I'm lucky that I got to experience that kind of a closeness with him.
And so I do want to ask you some things, again, not without addressing what others have said about their experiences, but I do want to ask you about some things that some others have said they experienced, just to see if you experienced these things. So you said you didn't experience anything that you would define as abuse. Did you feel like you were pressured to have sex, or you were sexually assaulted or anything? Did anything like that happen?
Absolutely not. In fact, when we did this photo shoot, as you can see from the photo, I was pretty much nude. I just had a tie and some like thigh-high sheer things on my legs. But that was actually my idea. I've been a nude model since I was 20 years old in 2004. I'm very, very, very comfortable with nudity, and that's never been a big issue for me. Yeah, I was just like, hey, I'll get naked. We can just kind of do whatever. I didn't have very many tattoos at that point, so I was like, you can like paint things on me. You can do whatever you want. And I remember at one point, after he had set everything up, I had a broken laptop in between my legs, but my legs, were, I want to say open because that sounds terrible, but they were a
Sharon Stone.
Yeah, there you go. And he did not know I had my legs like that. He had left the room to go get something, like something that had to do with lighting. So he comes back in and he looks at me and he goes, "Oh God, I can't even look at you right now." He's like, "I'm just gonna like not look at you and take pictures." So it was very, very, and I was laughing, of course. I thought that was hilarious, but it was just very endearing and very, very sweet that he was just like, "Oh, I don't even want to see this from you."
And okay, and so one thing that's gotten brought up by some is the idea that Manson he has this Jekyll and Hyde personality. And I'm not talking about how, yeah, we all have a dark side, or when we, like when I'm hungover or whatever, right, and moody or something like that. But I'm talking about like this idea of a real extreme Jekyll and Hyde side where he turns into this sadistic monster. You're saying you didn't experience anything like that or see it ever?
Never. And I was around him both when he was sober or when he was, intoxicated to some degree. And if anything, he just got even more silly the more intoxicated that he got. Like, I never witnessed him doing anything retaliatory or angry or anything. And, I was not there the whole entire time, so I can't like make conjecture about that or anything. But to my personal experience, but he never ever exhibited that behavior with me at all.
Before we get to talking about the music video, I just wanted to ask you about a few more things. It sounds like you did not have any of these experiences that the accusers have alleged. I'm just curious, you were around, I would assume that you were around Manson, not when he was around all these accusers necessarily. We'll talk about Evan Rachel Wood in a moment, but you were around him then, but you got to see how he behaves around women. Did you ever see anything that, like, did you ever see any kind of like scary or frightening or aggressive or controlling behavior around other women?
No. Like you said, he was with Evan, like the majority of the time, me and him.
And we'll talk in just a minute about how you met Evan and everything. I just want to get one more thing in here and be clear. Did you ever see him acting in an abusive way toward Evan, or did he ever tell you as a friend, like, "Oh, things got out of hand and I did this to her," or anything like that?
No, everything he ever said to me about her was just about how beautiful she was and how talented she was. I remember I talked to him one night when she had finished doing some recording for Across the Universe, and what I remember him saying was, "Yeah, she sings in this movie and she makes me sound like shit." And I was just like, damn, because I didn't know she sang at the time. So he would always just say very, very loving, sweet things about her.
I see. And I mean, I've heard other people have told me the same thing, that he really seemed to adore her. Okay, so let's talk about the music video.
Okay.
Because this is something, I mean, this music video, Heart Shaped Glasses, it's had a resurgence in people actually looking it up on the internet and YouTube and playing it because of this documentary and the fact that there was a petition that was started to have it removed from YouTube based on what Evan Rachel Wood claimed. So, again, I already talked about this, but Evan Rachel Wood claims now that it was not simulated sex in that music video, that it was Manson's music video and he produced it and it was a song and everything. She claims now that it was not simulated sex, it was actual sex, that it was not consensual. I can't quite figure out, I've watched the documentary a couple of times, I can't quite figure out if she's saying it's not consensual because she says that he basically slipped it in without asking her, or if she's claiming it's because she was intoxicated. I think both, actually. I think the argument that she's making, both of those. So she claims that also that he was feeding her, drugs and alcohol, the cocaine and absinthe, and that she was really out of it and too out of it to consent and so forth. Also, there was a claim made that everybody, that the film crew around this, when this was filmed, were very uncomfortable, and people could tell that there was something wrong and that it wasn't right, the sex scene and everything. So, again, you're not here to like call anybody else a liar. You're just here because like you actually were there. And I'm curious to ask you, first of all, just to set the scene, how did you wind up appearing in it? Because you actually were in this thing, appearing in this music video.
I was, how that actually came about was, like I said, Manson used to call me and we'd talk like for hours in the middle of the night. And sometimes during the day. I remember he called me on the 4th of July in 2005. And I have some very crazy religious people in my family that I was sitting with at the time. And they're like, who's calling you? And I was just like, oh God. So I kind of ran to the bathroom and
No,
talked to
the
him
devil.
for a little bit. You're like, Marilyn Manson's calling me. How's it going?
That's pretty funny.
But,
That's pretty funny.
usually it was in the middle of the night. And at the end of 2006, in November of that year, I had a miscarriage. Did not know I was pregnant until I had the miscarriage. And then,
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't.
oh, thank
I'm
you for
sorry.
that. Thank you. And then a couple months later, in February of 2007, the man who would be the father basically abandoned me, and so I was not well at all. I was very, very, very depressed, and I was very, very suicidal.
I
And
can't imagine. That sounds. I
yeah,
mean, that sounds definitely like a low point in one's life.
that's for sure. That's the low point in my life that I could talk about, but we're not going to get into too many
No,
details
no,
with
no,
that,
no,
but-
no, no.
but
I'm sorry about that. So you were in this really,
Thank
so you're in
you.
this really terrible, terrible place. It sounds like psychologically.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, and he, like I said, he would call me and he would make me laugh, and he'd just kind of let me cry about things and talk to him about things, and he would be like, you know, you're going to get through this. You're so strong. You're such a cool person, you know, and I'm here for you whenever you need me. So he was very much kind of my shoulder to cry on, and just very, very kind and understanding. And one night he's like, well, I just wanted to tell you I have a new album coming out, and I'm going to be shooting a music video here in LA. And if you are able to come out here, I'll make sure that you're in it. So I was like, done. Just let me know dates, because, you know, any chance for me to get the hell out of Albuquerque, I'll take it. So I went out there.
I mean, really talk about like doing something significant to lift someone's spirits. Because it sounds like that's what he was trying to do, right?
Yeah.
Music video.
We hadn't seen each other for a while at that point as well. So he was just like, yeah, coming out with me. We'll have fun. You know, you can meet my new girlfriend. And I had been a fan of hers. Like, I had seen 13 and a couple other things she had been in. And I was like, ah. So I went and stayed with a friend of mine out there. And we drove. It was in like this big warehouse that was in downtown Los Angeles. And I got there, and he just happened to be standing by the bathroom when I arrived. So I ran over and gave him a big old hug. And I was just like, ah, it's my brother. Yay. And I saw there was like a little area with the hair and makeup, and I saw Evan sitting there, and I was just like, oh my God, is that her? Is that her? I got all nervous. And he's like, yeah, that's her. Go talk to her. You guys are going to be great friends. She'll love you. And I was just like, oh God, I hope so. Fingers crossed. So I went up to her, and she had just finished getting her makeup done, and she was freaking gorgeous. Like, this girl looks like a doll in person. She's so pretty and just pale and blue eyes, and she was freaking gorgeous. And so I was kind of like, oh gosh, please be nice. So we just kind of like clicked immediately. And I have a tattoo of Edward Scissorhands on my left thigh, and she saw it. And we talked about the fact that she would like to get more tattoos, but obviously being a Hollywood actress, you can't really do that. But we were saying that part in Edward Scissorhands where Winona Ryder says, hold me, and then Johnny Depp says, I can't. She's like, that part always makes me cry. And I was like, me too. Oh my God. So it was just like this immediate back and forth with me and her. And I was just like, yes, she's cool. Thank God. So, I mean, that whole day on the first day of the set that I was there, you know, I wasn't there. I was there on and off, you know, having to go with the other extras. And, you know, I went and hung out with her and Manson in their dressing room, and we listened to Eat Me, Drink Me after I think he had just finished mixing it at that point, and he was giving me little anecdotes about the songs and everything. And of course, I was asking her a bunch of questions, as you do when you meet somebody new and they're your friend's girlfriend and all of that. It was just fun. It was a blast. We were all just hanging around, talking and getting to know each other. And me and Manson were catching up with each other. And it was just a very, very fun atmosphere.
So, you know, this is something that I've heard from some other people who've met Evan or been around her before, is how very sweet and personable she is. And you can see it, you know, in the documentary as well. So you met her for the first time on the set. And you performed. How did the performance go that day?
It was really, really fun. I mean, it was a long day. I think we were filming till 4:00 in the morning, and we had gotten there in the afternoon. So it was a good maybe like 12 hours, I think, or something like that. But it was great. It was a little bit crazy because there was just such a large amount of girls there. But you know, once everybody got organized and we all got into the part of the video where he's up on the stage performing, and then like the photographs come flying out of the cannons and all that stuff, you can see me pretty well in there a couple of times. You know, it's the 22-year-old version of me with short hair and a lot less tattoos.
Yeah, we'll show one of those pictures too that you gave.
Yeah. and that it was very like, it was just fun. There was a lot of girls I knew there. There was some that I had actually like said, hey, there's a music video filming today. If you're able to make it out, like, you know, it's paid. And I didn't say who it was because I didn't want like, you know, crazy fans showing up or anything like that. And, you know, making a scene. But there was quite a bit of girlfriends there that I got to see that day that I don't get to see very often because they are in Los Angeles. And it was just a fun, typical crazy music video shoot. And it was just really cool seeing my friend, you know, up there performing, and, you know, it was his direction and his music video and all of that. And I was just like, oh, this is so cool.
So then how did you end up then? Because that first day, it was not the day when they filmed the sex scene. And so you came back the next day. So how did that happen? Were you going to be in the scene the next day, or?
No, I actually was only planning to be there the first day, but then the end of the night, you know, I gave Manson and Evan hugs, and we headed back to my friend's house, and I got a text from him, and I said, it said, Evan has love for you. We would love if you would come back tomorrow and hang out with us. And I was just like, yay, you know, any chance
so
to hang out with
said
him.
that? Manson sent you a text saying Evan has love for you and come back?
Yeah, so that made me so happy, because obviously you want, you know, a close friend's significant other to like you. So I was just
sure.
Like,
yeah.
So, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, I said, especially, you know, I mean, it's especially when it's like a really cool actress like Evan Rachel Wood. I mean, I would have, you know, prior to discovering in the past, you know, year and a half or whatever, what I've discovered about her or seen her do, I thought that she was she still is a great actress, but I was a fan of sorts, right? So I would have been thrilled too. So, okay, so you come back then the next day at his invitation and hers, and was she very friendly to you that day?
Oh, absolutely. She was always very friendly. My friend that I was staying with, we came back, and we caught the very tail end of them filming the green screen scene with the car. It was like half a car, and there was just a big green screen of them driving on Mulholland Drive and all of that stuff. And so we got there when they were kind of changing scenes in between that and the next one, which was the simulated sex scene. And it was just, that was the biggest production I had been on at that point in my life. So it was very, very, very cool to witness that and to see just like the sets and the lighting and, you know, the different various people working on everything. And obviously my friend and Evan and all of that. So I was there for the whole, you know, the setup and all of that.
And you were in a fortunate, or we'd say unusual position, because there were not a lot of people on that set. It was basically like a closed set, or not. Well, no, it was closed. There weren't a lot of people. As I understand it, like there weren't a lot of people in the actual room. There were people watching next door. You know, on screen.
Yeah. There's a thing called Video Village, which is, you know, kind of where everybody goes to see what it actually looks like on screen, as opposed to being, you know, right there in front of them. And from what I remember, there was like me, my friend, one guy, I don't remember what he was doing, but he was part of the crew, and maybe like 2 or 3 other people. And it was closed off to everybody else aside from that.
Okay. And so you were there, and how long would you say you know, roughly speaking, how long would you say that that sex scene took to film?
I want to say anywhere from like 2 hours to maybe 3. It was mainly because of lighting, just the technical aspects of everything, making sure that
right. If anybody's ever been, well, I was gonna, sorry to interrupt you. I was gonna say that if anybody's ever has never been on a movie set or a film set of any kind, like they would just be amazed at how, you know, how frequently
it takes a while.
Yeah, they're constantly stopping and resetting, and even just something like the lighting. You know, until I actually visited a movie set in Austin several years ago, I didn't know, it never occurred to me how much time was put into getting the lighting just a certain way. Like,
oh my God, yeah. It has to be perfect.
Okay, so you were there during that scene, and the way that, my question is sort of the way that everybody was behaving about it, and from what you could observe, did you believe that they were actually having sex? Is that how people were acting?
No, I think everybody knew that it was very much, you know, simulated, because that's just the kind of professional people that were on the set that day, including Evan and Manson. And both of them had underwear on. I remember seeing both of them having, Manson had like these little black Speedo thingies on, and she had a thong on. So, but yeah, of course they were into it. They were very much in love with each other, and they were, rolling around and, doing things you do in bed, of course. But there was never any kind of air about the set that was like, oh God, this is so terrible. This is gross. This is that. The only thing I do remember is, along the same lines of what he did when he saw me with my legs open. I was just like, oh, this is like watching my big brother doing sexual stuff. So this is kind of
right.
But sure, that's literally all I
was just gonna say, in a simulated sex scene, I mean, it's meant to look like it's sexual, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But you didn't see, and I know that they were like covered at times, I guess, but you didn't see so you never saw. I hate to be so crass, but like you never saw genitals going into genitals or any.
Not at
there
all.
was nothing that you saw with your eyes that to you was conclusively like they're having sex.
Not at all. They had robes on that they had flown in on like a little zip line thing. So in between when they were taking the actual shots of the video, they were covered in robes. And then I do remember I told Evan, there's one point where she's kind of laying on her back and Manson's sitting up and she has her foot against his chest. And I remember I told her afterwards, your boobs look amazing. The way that they had the lighting, I was just like, damn, whoever's doing this lighting is fantastic. And it was just, I never saw anything that would, allude to the fact that it was actual sex that was happening. And it didn't look like they were actually like full on going at it with each other. But of course, she's a great actress, and, them being so much in love, they were very, very much into it, and you can see the video, she's moaning for dramatic effect and all of that. But
that's a question I wanted to ask you, is apart from the question even of whether it was actual sex or not, which is, is something that that through the years everybody just understood that it was not actual sex, right?
Yeah.
But it's been kind of like resurrected now by Evan Rachel Wood. But my question is this: like, apart from the question of whether it was simulated or it was actual, did it seem like Evan Rachel Wood? And again, you're not here to contradict anything she's saying, but I'm just asking what you could see. Did it appear that she was being like pressured or coerced, or that she was doing this unenthusiastically or reluctantly, the things that you were seeing in her doing this scene?
No, not at all. They both were very, very much into it, and they would like converse with each other in between shots to see what they wanted to do next. And I was speaking to both of them, and there was jokes being made, like yelling across each other to set and everything like that. And I was like, you look hot, and things like that. It was never presented in that way that any of it was not consensual, or that
she was under or anything. Yeah.
Right. It just seemed to be, of course, everybody was very focused and very professional, because there's a lot of money that goes into every minute of a production. So everybody wants to be very snappy and very professional and very just get everything done as soon as possible. But there was never any kind of like any weirdness or anything like that. It was just,
that's sorry, they're gonna hate me for interrupting you so many times. That brings up one thing I just wanted to be clear on, though, is that there have been it was claimed in Phoenix Rising that there were people who were deeply uncomfortable who were on set, like the crew were very uncomfortable during that scene, and it was visible to people, this discomfort, and it was palpable, right? And it sounds like what you're saying is that it was not an uncomfortable set or an uncomfortable scene. It was fine. It was relaxed, huh?
Yeah, it was just, two people
not relaxed,
two people that were crazy about each other, doing what I would assume that they had previously discussed in the treatment for the video.
When you were on the set, though, during the simulated sex scene, did it seem like the crew, I just want to clarify that, did it seem like the crew were uncomfortable?
No, everybody was doing their job. I did not hear any, speculation about anything. Never anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay, so it comes time for the blood scene, the infamous blood scene where, which Evan Rachel Wood said she found so romantic, in interviews years ago. But you couldn't stay. You had to, understandably, you'd been standing around for hours, so you had to, get back home and whatever. So you leave, and then was anything discussed prior to you leaving?
Yeah, I gave him a huge hug, obviously, as I was leaving. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, that wasn't real, was it? And I can't do this correctly because I'm not Manson, but he has this very specific face that he makes that I call his smart ass face. And he's like, no, I can't do it right. But he just, if you know what his voice sounds like, he goes, no. Mm-hmm. Just like a scoff, like a no, that was not real kind of thing.
And when he said no, you said it was it was in a scoffing tone. It wasn't like you had found, like it was a secret, right? And he's like, no, or whatever.
Oh, no.
It was like very sort of casual, like, of course not, right?
Yeah, it was very much, of course that wasn't real. Like, he would never put people in that position, especially somebody that he's essentially paying for and directing. He would never have done something that unprofessional.
Okay, so you leave, and I guess you said goodbye to Evan.
Oh yeah, I gave her a big old hug, and I was like, oh gosh, I hope we get to see you soon. And she was just such a sweetheart. I can never stress enough of what a sweet person that she was the whole time that, I was friends with both of them. She was just very kind and welcoming, and, I genuinely loved being around her. She just had this glow about her, and I totally saw what Manson fell in love with just immediately upon meeting her.
Really? That's really interesting. That's really interesting. Well, it's interesting you say that she had a glow when she was dating Manson because, there have been some who have, like, for instance, Dan Cleary, who said that she had an aura of blackness around her, whatever, that got worse, But so anyway, that's kind of interesting. I know, again, you're not here to refute anything, but and then one more thing about Evan, and again, I appreciate you saying how nice she was too. That you're not trying to paint a picture of her, because I feel like if you, just me personally, I feel like if you were here to attack Evan or to try to defend Manson, no matter what the truth is, you would be telling me things like, oh, and she was so like controlling, and all of this, right? But
yeah, nothing like that. She was just this sweet little, like I said before, she literally looks like a doll. She's just gorgeous and very poised, and she has a wicked sense of humor, which I don't think a lot of people know, but I think that's one of the points that he also fell in love with her, and me too, because I've got a really sarcastic sense of humor, so it was always fun talking to her.
Did she seem like she was under the influence of drugs or alcohol? And also, did you ever see Manson giving her any drugs?
No, I didn't. Once again, I was not in their dressing room. I was not around them the whole entire time, so I can't, speculate from my experience on that. But she seemed like, we had a lot of conversations both of those days, and she seemed very alert and bright, and nothing jumped out at me like that at all.
So you did not feel like you were talking to someone who was like not aware of what was going on, or not in control of what was going on around them and what they were doing?
No, not at all. And like I said, they were discussing what positions looked good that they were in on camera, and lighting, and just various different things that were happening on the set that day. And I never picked up on anything like that at all. Okay.
Did she seem, and then I'm sorry, I keep saying this, my last question, but really did she seem, after the simulated sex scene was filmed, did she seem to you in any way like flustered or embarrassed or disturbed or or angry with Manson or sullen? Were there any negative emotions that you picked up after that?
No, not at all. I just remember both of them kind of being bummed that, I wasn't going to stay for the blood thing, and I was as well. But they just, I don't know, they were both very focused on the video and making sure they got it right, and, having what they had in their minds come to life and everything like that. But they were both very, very friendly as usual, and, just very kind.
Okay, so let's see, so you didn't see them. Did you go home? So you went home and you didn't see them anymore then for a while after that shoot, right?
Yeah, I think the video shoot was like April or May, and then they came on tour here in August. So it was a couple of months.
Okay, well, so was that the last time that you saw Evan, would you say?
Yeah, I never got to see her again after that. And then I'd say about a year and a half after that is the last time Manson and I spoke. And I do not remember what in the world we argued about and what we got in a fight about. It was in 2009, and that's unfortunately when my alcoholism had started. So I'm sure it was just a case of, I was intoxicated. He was probably intoxicated. We just said the wrong thing to each other. And then boom, it was, that was just the end of our friendship right there, which I very much take responsibility for the fact that somebody that was that close to me, that our relationship was a casualty of addiction. And it still breaks my heart. And I really mourned, and I still mourn that relationship because we were that close.
I appreciate you being candid about that, as you have been about everything. And it's really not, it's really not important why you had a falling out, as long as that wasn't a falling out based on him, that consisted of him like abusing you, or was it anything like that, right?
Not at all, no.
I think we look like, and nobody's claiming that Manson or anyone associated with him was a saint, right? And so I think we kind of all understand, and those of us who've dealt with addiction, everything that things in your life can get
they spiral really quickly,
chaotic, and then your relationships can be casualties of that. But that, okay, so that was the last that you talked to Manson, and I know this is going to seem like kind of a weird question, but this will make sense for our audience a little bit later when we talk about something else. But you, this falling out that you had, or this argument, was it something that it was recorded in text? Like, was part of it did part of it play out over text messages?
Yeah, the whole thing was over text. We didn't speak at that time. We hadn't spoken for quite a while. And like I said, I don't remember what the actual hell we were arguing about or talking about, but the whole thing was via text.
Okay. All right. So, it might seem like this would be where the story would end, with you, having this falling out with Manson, not speaking to him anymore. But then there's kind of some odd events that happened after that. And a really bizarre twist, but we'll talk about that in a moment. But you were contacted by several people about Manson. Can you tell us who contacted you and about what?
Yeah, March of last year, I very randomly in my Instagram inbox got a message from somebody from BuzzFeed News. They were like, "Hey, my name," I'm not going to say the name, redacted for privacy, but I'm with BuzzFeed News, and I believe that you were on the set of a music video, and I would love to do an interview with you. And initially, I was very much like, yeah, cool, I'd love to talk to you. Like, if you see the messages, that was my response, that I would love to do an interview with you. And then the brevity of the situation kind of set in. And luckily, somebody I'm very, very close to is in the legal profession, so I messaged them, and I was like, hey, I could really use your advice on what to do in this whole entire scenario. And the first thing they said to me after reading the messages was, do not do that interview. They do not have your best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. They are trying to, make this clickbait and to, do a hot story so they can, kind of pick and choose.
Sensationalize.
Exactly. Yes. That's the word I was looking for.
No, you're fine. So BuzzFeed contacted you did you say it was last year? Was it 2020?
It was March of 2021.
March of 2021. Okay, and so this was a little over a month after the allegations?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, and so BuzzFeed contacts you, and you talk to your friend who's an attorney, and she says, stay the hell away from this, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. So I wrote them back, and I was like, upon further inspection and upon speaking to my lawyer, I've decided not to do this interview. It's not in my best interest. And, I thought the end of it, but then he messaged me back a couple times, and he was like, we can do this anonymously. You don't have to say anything you don't want to say. This is simply just asking you a couple questions. And then it went silent for a little bit. And then a couple weeks later, I got another email, or a message, I should say. And it's like, I'm just going to circle back and just going to see if you're still interested in doing this. And of course, I didn't say anything. And so that was the last time I heard from him.
Did he say, he said that he mentioned Ilma Gore. Did he say that he had been directed to you?
Yeah, he said Ilma Gore is the one who gave me your name, and I had never heard that name before in my life, and I was just like, I don't know who that is, but okay.
And of course, now we know that was Evan Rachel Wood's girlfriend, and also she's featured prominently. She's basically the co-star of Phoenix Rising, the documentary with Evan Rachel Wood. So she was right there with Evan Rachel Wood. So basically, I guess just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, it seems like she was in contact with this writer from BuzzFeed, and was basically giving the writer references of people who might be able to discuss what went on in Heart-Shaped Glasses?
I have no idea how that came about. I don't know how anybody got my name. I'm still kind of in the dark and a lot confused about that whole entire thing. But I mean,
but that's what he was saying, basically, right? Is like, Ilma told me that you can tell me what went on in Heart-Shaped Glasses, basically, right?
Yeah, and I like I said, I didn't know who that was. I had never been contacted by BuzzFeed News or anything like that, so I was just like, how in the world do these people get my contact information?
Right. No, I'm sure, and also I'm sure this is right after the allegations had come out, and so you probably felt like there were lots of journalists out there putting feelers out and stuff, right?
Yeah, and I would assume so, but I had kind of like I said, I hadn't been friends with him for over a decade at that point. So I was just like, why am I suddenly, being contacted about something that happened?
And why would they care about and why would anyone care about Heart-Shaped Glasses too, right? Yeah. At the time it seemed, because who could have foreseen that she would, at least in my opinion, who could have foreseen that she would be alleging that it was rape, actual sex or rape. Okay, so you talked to him, and basically, you declined, which again, I think speaks well of you, because if you were talking to me right now for attention, which is what, people are always going to say that, and understandably, right? There's a lot of people do a lot of things for attention, as we've seen.
As the kids say.
But if you wanted, but let's just, just to get this out of the way, like if you were coming forward and talking about this for attention, you would get way, way more attention, and the rewards would be much greater for you coming out against Manson, or saying, oh, I did see him do these things to women, or oh, he did these things to me, and you would be believed, right? Back to what we were saying. You were contacted again, or you were contacted by someone else. Who contacted you the second time?
I don't remember their exact name. You have the screenshot. And they said, hi, I'm with Disarm Films, and we believe that you were on the set of a music video and could tell us our experiences. We can send you an NDA if you would want to talk to us. And my immediate response was, no, absolutely not. I was just like, absolutely, my first response was, well, what is this in reference to? And they're like, well, we can't really tell you unless we send you the NDA. So immediately it was like red flags. So I was just like, if this has anything to do with Marilyn Manson, I'm not commenting on anything that has to do with that. And, I got a couple more messages. You can see from the screenshots that I sent you. And, they were just like, we can send you an NDA. We can do anonymous. We can blur out your face and this type of thing. But I didn't send a response because I was not interested. And what they said they were from Disarm Films, and I had once again never heard of that before in my life, but I came to find out recently that is the company that produced the Phoenix Rising documentary.
Yeah, that's right. So it seems pretty clear that it was that they were trying to get your perspective or at least they were fishing to see if they would want your perspective for Phoenix Rising. And I would assume, since that film is presenting Evan Rachel Wood's perspective, and since it doesn't seem like they did any research really on the other side or the other perspective, it would seem like they were at least hoping that you would back up her story, I would guess.
Yeah, and that was kind of shocking to me because, like I said, I didn't know the name of that production company or anything like that until recently. And I thought it was just another thing like BuzzFeed. It was just a journalism company that was reaching out wanting to do an interview. So, of course, I was just like, no. But then when I found that out, it was just like, wow, okay, wow.
And so how did you respond? You said, I'm not interested, basically?
Yeah, I just said I'm not speaking on anything that has to do with Marilyn Manson. It's not my experience. It's not my story. And then that was the last message that I sent to them.
Okay, and that occurred again when? Tell me again.
I believe it was a couple months. I want to say it was last summer or something like that.
Okay, so somewhere around summer of 2021.
Yeah.
Last summer. Okay. And then you were contacted a final time by someone else concerning this music video and Marilyn Manson. Tell us how that happened, who that was.
I still have this message in my requests on Instagram. I have looked at it, but you know how it is in requests when they don't know you've looked at it until you respond.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not, one of those people that scours their message requests either on Facebook or Instagram. That's just, I have better things to do with my life. But when it's somebody that you might have a connection with, it does show up that you have a request. So I saw that and I was just like, don't know who this is, but I'm going to look at it. And once again, I sent you the screenshot so you can look at it. And it says, Ilma Gore says, hey, I'm just paraphrasing here because I don't remember exactly what it says, but it says, hey, I would like your lawyer's information. Other teams want to connect. Once again, the name Ilma Gore came up and I was just like, I still don't know who this is. And so I was just
it's a strange message. How did you interpret that?
I'm not sure what I thought at that time. I was just like, oh God, here we go again. Because I thought it was a journalist because, that's who the guy from BuzzFeed had mentioned. So I took it upon myself this time to go Google. And I was just like, oh, wow, okay. That was literally my response was, wow, okay. And I was just like, this is getting crazy. I messaged my friend once again, the attorney, and once again, they said, just leave the message there. Don't acknowledge it. Don't respond. I'm sorry, these people keep harassing you. And at that point, I did not want to get involved in any of this. I avoided it for over a year because I was just like, this is nothing to do with me for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But, there just kind of came a point where I was like, I have to say something because, even though he and I are no longer friends, I can't just in good conscience stay silent anymore.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, I think like we talked about this, I think that your motives are pretty clear here because again, if you wanted attention or whatever rewards, this would not be, no offense to my own show, but this little show wouldn't be the way to go about it.
Yeah.
But okay, so you never responded to Ilma Gore's message, her strange message. No. I guess it sounds like Ilma Gore was, and we know this, that she was in contact with working with the Phoenix Rising producers, and then the BuzzFeed guy had said that that he was speaking with her. So
yeah,
clearly she had gotten the message and everything. So then some time goes by, and this is where those things get a really bizarre twist, and just an interesting story of how you and I connected. So I would say maybe like a month ago, or maybe a little bit less, but several weeks ago, a mutual friend of ours on Instagram, who goes by Real Rachel Woods. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Yeah, and so she's the reason why in a lot of ways why we're talking, and so I appreciate her. But she's very sort of very honest about the fact that she's a big time Marilyn Manson supporter and everything. So you had developed a relationship with her for like over years, right?
Yeah, me and her have been friends since back in the LiveJournal days, which shows you how long ago that was. So I knew that she, had connections. So once this whole revelation about the music video had kind of come to light, and after I had gotten all these messages, even though I had been actively avoiding trying to get involved because it's not my thing to do stuff like that. Okay, so I was very uncomfortable with even reaching out to anybody in the first place, and I had known Rachel for so long that I felt comfortable, kind of bringing it up to her, not knowing who she would get in contact with or if she had the ability to do so. But she's like, okay, let me give this information to a couple of different people. And in some roundabout way, it got through different various sources, and then you and me got connected. So I'm really grateful that happened.
Yeah, and this is where things get very strange because so Rachel contacted me and she said, I have this friend who was on the set of Heart Shaped Glasses. And first of all, like, no offense to Rachel, it's just, I don't really know her very well. I still don't, but no offense to her, but I was like, oh, okay. Because it seemed very sort of fantastical that she would have a source who was on the set. And so, yeah. So anyway, I was kind of like thinking it was a scam, right? And not that she was scamming me or anybody or you were, but just like that there was something that wouldn't end up making sense, right?
Yeah, there's somebody that just wants attention. They want to say that they were there.
Yeah, and and sometimes, and people often mean well, but I'll get contacted by people, and I don't mind it. I'd rather people contact me if they have tips or whatever to share, because you never know. Yeah. Because sometimes people will contact me with stuff that it's they're stretching the relevance of it, So anyway, so she tells me, and after I like finally get it through my head that, like, like she's serious, and this is seriously like someone who was like actually like friends with Manson, actually like there on set. Then I'm like, wow. So I start, when I'm talking to Rachel, I start researching what I can see of you, because she showed me who you were, and on Instagram or whatever. And so I start researching, and I find your Twitter, and I look at your Twitter. And the first thing that I see, and we'll put it up on the screen, but because I screenshot it, right? I wish I had screenshot the whole Twitter, your page.
I know, I do too.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But I screenshot this. I look at it, and the first thing I see is, as I'm like, looking at it, is I don't remember if I had to scroll down. I think it was like the first thing on there. But anyway, I stand with Evan, right? And the hashtag, I stand with Evan. And I'm just like, oh man, because I'm thinking, okay, so basically confirming what I've thought, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so then I get back, and then also like so then I start scrolling down your Twitter, and I see,
oh my God,
I'm trying to remember exactly how it was phrased. I did not screenshot this. I wish that I had, but at that point I was just kind of like disgusted with the whole thing, right? And so anyway, but I saw on your Twitter, it said something like, DM me if you're looking for Quaaludes. I have some to buy, or I have some I'm selling, Quaaludes.
Yeah. And I thought that was hilarious. Like, you sent me a message about that, and I was just like, what?
So the thing that was nutty about the Quaaludes, well, I mean, first of all, I'm thinking, this person is, obviously this person is very loony to be posting stuff like that. But my second thought was, I thought that you couldn't get Quaaludes now. How can I get some from this person? I was like almost kind of excited,
Yeah, like you're like, oh, I got the hookup.
If I can get some Quaaludes out of this, that would be, and to our audience, it's just funny, because when Wolf of Wall Street came out, and if you've seen Wolf of Wall Street, I am going somewhere with this, by the way, to our big twist here, but when Wolf of Wall Street came out, one of the big like motifs in that film was he's addicted to Quaaludes, and he's always popping Quaaludes, and like there's that scene where they get really too high and they're like wrestling in the kitchen or whatever,
right? To drive and all that stuff.
Yeah. And so when that movie came out, I was curious, because I had never, I had heard like about like the 70s, like back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s, when these were really big, or like Valley of the Dolls or whatever, right? And so I researched, I mean, I'm not proud to admit this, right? But like, I researched how to get Quaaludes because I was curious, right? And I found out that like, you can't, like, I'm sure there's somewhere in the world where you can get them. I read something about how they maybe still manufacture in certain countries like South Africa, but like, you can't get Quaaludes in the U.S. It's not since like the 1980s. Like, they were outlawed in the 1980s, and they're not manufactured here, and they're not prescribed here. And so I guess what I'm saying is, long story short, and here's the thing too, like, I even had this t-shirt, and I'm just gonna show a picture. I love that shirt. It's so funny. This is a t-shirt that I got after Wolf of Wall Street because I was such a fan. And like I said, when I was looking at this Quaaludes stuff, I came across this t-shirt that you see right here. And it's even the t-shirt. But even the t-shirt is a reference to the fact that you can't get them anymore, right? So anyway, the whole point of this is that I thought it was so bizarre that you were advertising, selling something that you can't get, right? And so I was like, what is up with this person? So anyway,
now, I was born in 1983. I've never even seen a Quaalude in my entire life. Where would I even get one? The only time I've seen them was in Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm thinking, well, this person is just really, really loony. I don't know what to make of this. And so anyway, so then I respond back to Rachel, because you and I actually hadn't started like talking. We're still kind of going through her.
Not yet.
And so I respond back to her, and I gave her a screenshot of the I Stand with Evan, and I basically was like, what the fuck is this? Right?
And she sent it to me, and I was just like, what the actual fuck is this?
So
and I told her the exact same thing.
When you saw that, yeah, what did you think initially?
Oh, I mean, since back in the MySpace days, I've been getting hacked. I get fake profiles with my pictures on them on Instagram, Facebook. So to see this on there, I mean, I never use my Twitter. I think the last thing that I posted myself on there was a video that I made at the beginning of COVID of me washing my hands where it focuses on my cleavage. And it was just kind of a silly thing to make people laugh because it was such a fucking scary time at that point. But then seeing
COVID,
all these...
COVID was 2020, so you haven't used your Twitter.
Yeah,
I mean, it was Twitter since 2020.
I usually regularly only post on Instagram and Facebook, and then I just kind of like move on to something else.
But you didn't post, just to be clear, you didn't post I Stand with Evan, and you didn't post the Quaalude thing.
No, and there was something else about like me selling my yoni or something like that, and I was just like, what is this? What is happening with my Twitter?
And I don't have the Quaalude thing, and the thing is, like, after I pointed this out to you, you got spooked, and rightly so, and you deleted your Twitter, and so we're trying to actually get it back. You've emailed Twitter about it, and we hope
still haven't heard anything. I've emailed.
Hopefully get back to you about restoring your account. But we do have the screenshot, that I've shared.
Yes,
what was on there, and but here's the thing: like, you were spooked, and this is what this to me was the crazy part of this scenario. You were spooked, and rightly so, because one of the things that's come out over the last month or so, and this is in the news. People can look this up online. They can look at my channel videos I've done, other sites. But basically, it's come out that Ilma Gore, who was Evan Rachel Wood's girlfriend at the time, the person who was emailing people on behalf of Evan Rachel Wood, was emailing people in connection with Phoenix Rising documentary, and also we know was helping to, my research has found was helping to recruit people to go after Marilyn Manson, along with Evan Rachel Wood. So one of the things that we found out about her is that she has a pretty extensive background in computer science, coding, and even hacking. I mean, she has bragged before online about hacking. And Marilyn Manson alleges in his lawsuit that she hacked him. And one of the things that he alleges in that lawsuit is that she and Evan Rachel Wood, they got email addresses and text messages and all kinds of stuff off of his phone, and were able to access various accounts of his that his assistant, Ashley Walters, his assistant at the time, Ashley Walters, had access to. And for people who don't know about this whole soap opera that I'm describing here, Marilyn Manson is being sued by a former assistant, Ashley Walters, who's suing him for a lot of money and has various grievances that I've debunked in other videos. But she had access to his phone and to his accounts, and she had his passwords and all of these things. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is that, and this is just my conjecture, but I think what likely happened is that Ilma Gore either was able somehow to hack into your Twitter account. She got some of this information through Ashley Walters, who, according to Manson's lawsuit, gave this information to them so that then they could contact these different women that he'd had relationships with, whether it was sexual relationships or friendships, to try to recruit these women. And so I guess it seems to me that that what was going on here is there's an effort in various ways. There's an effort made to try to recruit you to speak on Evan Rachel, to confirm what Evan Rachel Wood was saying, or to come out against Manson, perhaps. And because you didn't go along with that, and you even spoke to a lawyer, I guess that Ilma felt like she needed to hack you and try to sabotage you in case you came out. So I guess that, again, I'm sorry to take so long explaining that, but I do think it's good for people to understand, like, the background and why you were spooked, and why this is a really crazy turn of events. So I'm curious, how do you feel about things? But what are your thoughts about this?
I'm not sure what to believe at this point. I do know that I didn't post any of that stuff. I didn't say anything like that. I don't know. I don't know what to think. And I don't want to say speculation. I don't want to, point fingers or anything like that, because that's not my personality and that's not what I'm here to do at all or anything like that. But I'm just very much saying, that's not something that I would put on my social media.
Well, and I appreciate you being willing to say that, because like, I don't want you here to, I don't want you at all to feel like you have to be here to contest what someone else is saying or to accuse anyone of anything or whatever. Right. But you're very clear about the fact that you did not write, I stand with Evan on your Twitter. You did not post that.
No, I would not do anything like that. And then
the Quaalude thing to me too.
Yeah.
To me, that was what convinced me too. It was like you got back to Rachel, how this finished up basically is you got back to Rachel and you said, I didn't type that. No. And then Rachel gets back to me. And at that point, I was thinking, wow, wouldn't it be crazy if Ilma or if someone hacked her? And so at that point I wanted to talk to you and see if I found you to be credible. So we started talking and I did. And to me, one of the things that makes this, that makes it credible to me that you didn't post this is like, you don't sell Quaaludes. You don't have access to Quaaludes. Like, I know that you don't. I've been in many circles over the years of people who are drug users and hard drug users and all kind. And you just, if you're in the audience and you can get access to Quaaludes, DM me, because I probably shouldn't put that in there. But I'm only like half joking on that. But
no, but really message her.
But I knew that. So at that point, it's like, but this is just so weird. And so I think it was something that was, again, it was put there to make it look like you were like psychologically like a Fruit Loop or something, right? Like the things are not right. And so, but the I stand with Evan. I mean, that is not just some random hacking thing. That's not just I can see with the Quaaludes thing, like some random person just, screwing around who gets access to your account, whatever.
Yeah. Because that's funny. Come on, that's hilarious.
I stand with Evan, and it comes out the very day when the accusations came out, right? So anyway, I think that's a really interesting turn of events, and I've told you what I make of them, but I appreciate your restraint on that. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or anything that you think that I've missed?
No, I think that was pretty much everything. Just, I don't know, I'm really grateful that I have this opportunity to just kind of give my side of things, whether people choose to believe it or not, that's entirely up to them, and that's their prerogative. And, like I said, I just want to present different aspects on things from what I experienced and what I witnessed, and especially because it was somebody that I was just so close to and that I cared about very, very much, and I still do.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to come out and speak the truth about this, and you're not the only one. And again, I encourage people, if they haven't seen any of the other interviews on my channel, I've got a lot of interviews with former personal assistants, former lovers, girlfriends, and then friends like you. And they're all painting a similar picture of Manson, and it's not the same picture that you get from the mainstream media or from the accusers. And so, again, I appreciate you being here and sharing that. And then for my audience, like and subscribe and ring the bell so you get notification of my videos when they come out. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos along these lines about Manson, about other topics. And as always, if you appreciated this video, please support me. The PayPal, Patreon links are below. Even a little tip helps. And I'm not paid by Manson or by anyone on his team or related to him or any of that jazz. So thank you so much, everybody. And Vanessa, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me just tell my story and everything.
Thank you. I think we all know why you're here to do it. It's not for fame. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.